Alex had always thought of himself as just an ordinary person, nothing special. A mechanic on Earth, fixing engines and tools, living a quiet life. He had no idea how his life was about to change when he received the mysterious invitation. It was a letter, sent in a way he'd never seen before. It didn't come through the usual channels or email. Instead, it appeared directly in his thoughts, a deep, resonating voice inside his head. You are invited to attend the Grand Simulated War. You will be a spectator. Prepare yourself. At first, Alex thought it was a joke or some sort of prank. Who would send him a message like that? But it wasn't long before he discovered the truth. The next morning, he was contacted again, this time by an official-looking representative who explained the event to him. The Grand Simulated War was something held by a vast coalition of alien civilizations. It was the most significant event in the galaxy, a highly anticipated spectacle that showcased the tactical brilliance and military prowess of different species. The war wasn't real in the traditional sense, but it wasn't something to take lightly either. The aliens had perfected technology that allowed them to simulate entire battles, creating an environment where different species fought for dominance. Alex was to be a witness, a spectator. The invitation was clear, and the offer was too strange to ignore. After a few weeks of contemplation, Alex finally agreed to attend. He was told that he would travel to a space station orbiting a planet known as Vexus, where the war would take place. The journey was brief, only a few days, but it felt like a lifetime to Alex. He didn't know what to expect, but something deep inside him stirred with curiosity. He had no idea what he was stepping into. When he arrived, the first thing that struck him was the scale of it all. The space station was massive, far beyond anything Earth had ever constructed. It was a city in the stars, a bustling hub of activity filled with all sorts of creatures from every corner of the galaxy. He saw beings with multiple arms, others with translucent skin, and some that were nothing like anything he had ever imagined. These weren't just aliens. They were entire civilizations, each with their own rich histories and advanced technologies. Alex was escorted to the main viewing chamber, an enormous hall with transparent walls that looked out into the vast expanse of space. In the center of the room stood a massive platform, and around it, thousands of seats were filled with spectators. He was led to a seat near the front, where he could get a good view of the action. The other spectators, all alien, looked at him with a mix of curiosity and indifference. He was the only human in the room, and that didn't escape his notice. He was a novelty, a curiosity, nothing more. The air was thick with excitement. Every spectator seemed to have an air of anticipation, as if this event were something more than a mere spectacle. The lights dimmed, and a deep, booming voice echoed through the chamber. "Welcome to the Grand Simulated War," the voice announced, as a large screen at the center of the arena lit up with images of different planets, each one inhabited by a different alien species. Today, we will witness the greatest warriors in the galaxy clash for supremacy. Who will emerge victorious? Who will prove their worth? Let the games begin. The screen flickered, and a series of images appeared, showing groups of aliens preparing for battle. There were soldiers, generals, and commanders, each from a different race, their faces grim with determination. Alex couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement as the tension in the room grew. These were no ordinary soldiers. These were the best of the best, representing their entire species. And yet, Alex could feel that something wasn't right. The atmosphere was charged, but there was a strange unease that hung in the air. As the simulation began, the screen split into multiple views, showing different battlefields and terrains. The alien soldiers were armed with advanced weaponry, their bodies enhanced with powerful technologies. The fighting was brutal, fast, and intense. It was clear that this wasn't just some game. These were real beings, fighting for something much more significant than simple entertainment. But what? Alex tried to focus, watching the battles unfold on the screen. At first, it was just an impressive display of technology and strategy, a demonstration of the aliens' abilities. But as the hours passed, Alex began to notice something strange. The battles didn't seem to follow the usual rules. Soldiers would fall, only to be replaced by others who seemed to come out of nowhere. And when one soldier fell, it wasn't just a moment of defeat. It felt wrong. The intensity of the fights, the blood, the screams, they didn't feel simulated. For a moment, Alex thought he was imagining things, but as the battle progressed, it became clearer. The creatures on the screen were real. The deaths were real. And they were happening far too quickly for this to be just a simulation. Something was off, and Alex's gut told him that the truth was far darker than he could have ever anticipated. In the stands, the alien spectators cheered and shouted, as if the deaths were nothing more than an exciting part of the show. They didn't seem bothered by what was happening. They didn't seem to care. But Alex couldn't shake the growing feeling of dread that had settled in his stomach. This wasn't a game. It was something much more horrifying. The next battle was even more brutal. A small group of alien soldiers, the size of mere children compared to the others, were pitted against a massive, hulking creature that towered over them. Alex watched in shock as the little soldiers fought with all their might. But they were crushed, one by one. The creature's claws ripped through them with ease, and the spectators in the stands howled in delight. But Alex wasn't cheering. He was frozen in place, horrified by what he was seeing. He looked around the room, his eyes searching for someone, anyone, who might share his shock. But the aliens around him were smiling, enjoying the show. They saw this as entertainment. They saw lives being lost as nothing more than a game. But Alex knew better. As the battle raged on, the voice boomed again, announcing the next stage of the war. The arena was about to shift, and more species would be introduced to the simulation. But Alex's mind wasn't on the game anymore. He couldn't stop thinking about the truth that had begun to unfold before him. The simulation was no longer just an exhibition. It was a fight to the death, one that was being broadcast for the entertainment of beings who had no regard for life. Alex didn't know how or why this was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't just a spectator anymore. He was a part of something far darker than he could ever have imagined. The tension in the room reached its peak, and Alex couldn't help but wonder, was this event truly a game, or was something much more sinister going on? And if the battles were real, who was pulling the strings? Who was in control? The lights in the arena dimmed, and the screen flickered again, signaling the start of the next phase. Alex's heart raced. The journey he had thought would be an exciting adventure had just turned into a nightmare, and he was in the middle of it. Alex couldn't shake the feeling of unease as the grand simulated war unfolded before him. What had initially seemed like an incredible spectacle, an intergalactic show of alien warfare and technology, was quickly turning into something much darker. The screams of the fallen soldiers, the blood-soaked ground, and the cold, indifferent eyes of the spectators haunted him. These weren't just battles. These were lives being extinguished in front of thousands, yet the alien crowd cheered, as if it was nothing more than entertainment. The next phase of the battle was about to begin. The arena shifted, and new combatants were introduced. More alien species, some towering over the others smaller but quicker, entered the fray. It was like watching a scene from an ancient war documentary, but somehow it felt even more personal, more real. Alex's heart beat faster as the holographic walls of the arena revealed new terrain, twisting canyons, dense jungles, and vast oceans. It was as if these creatures were being forced into different ecosystems, forced to fight in unfamiliar environments. He glanced around at the crowd, hoping for some sign that what he was witnessing was indeed just a game. But the cold, detached faces around him made his stomach churn. They were all so indifferent. Some had even placed bets on the outcome of the next battle, as though they were gambling on the lives of the combatants. To them, it was all just a show. Alex could barely stand to watch anymore, but he couldn't look away. The next round began with a roar of excitement from the crowd. A group of alien soldiers, covered in armor made of living metal, appeared in the center of the arena. They were massive, hulking beings, each one over 10 feet tall. They were the kind of warriors that struck fear into the hearts of lesser species. Across from them stood a group of small, agile creatures, their skin shimmering with a strange ethereal glow. They looked fragile, far too fragile to survive against the giant warriors. But the smaller species didn't seem scared. They moved with the speed of lightning, dodging the attacks of the towering fighters. Alex could see the desperation in their eyes. It was clear they were fighting for their lives. The alien warriors struck down one of the smaller creatures with ease, its body crumpling to the ground in a heap. The crowd roared in approval. But Alex could feel the knot in his stomach tightening. He turned to look around again, hoping for someone to explain this madness. But the aliens seated near him were just watching with eager eyes, their expressions filled with excitement. They didn't care. They were entertained by this slaughter. A sickening realization washed over him. This wasn't just a game. The deaths were real. The creatures were real. And the simulation wasn't simulated at all. It was an execution. Alex's thoughts were interrupted by a voice, low and calm. He turned quickly to find an alien standing beside him. This one was different from the others. Unlike the other beings who appeared to be members of high-ranking species or spectators, this one was dressed simply, without any decoration or apparent status. He was humanoid, with grayish-blue skin and sharp, calculating eyes. "You're starting to understand," the alien said in a low whisper, leaning closer. "You're not here just to watch." Alex froze, his breath catching in his throat. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The war is real. The lives being lost are real." The alien's voice was soft, almost sympathetic. "This isn't just some form of entertainment. It's an experiment, and you're part of it." Alex's heart pounded. "What do you mean, I'm part of it?" He had to be mishearing things. The alien glanced around to make sure no one was paying attention before speaking again. "You're the human who's been chosen to witness the truth. To see what happens when a species, your species, decides to play a role in this." He gestured to the battlefield, where the small alien creatures were being slaughtered one by one. "This isn't just a show. This is the future of your species." Alex's mind raced. "I don't understand. What do you mean, the future of my species?" "The galaxy is watching, human," the alien said, his eyes narrowing with intensity. "The other species, they'd been testing each other for centuries. They've been fighting, pushing their limits. Some of them have even wiped out entire species. But your species, Earth, humans, you've always been considered weak, primitive, not worth the time. Until now." Alex's breath caught in his throat. "What are you talking about?" The alien leaned in closer. "You're here to see how humans react to being thrust into the chaos. How will your species handle war? How will they deal with the ultimate test of survival? What happens when humans see the true nature of this conflict? This event, the simulated war, is just the beginning." The alien stepped back, his eyes flickering with something Alex couldn't place. Something dark, almost predatory. "You may think you're just a spectator, but you've been chosen for a reason. And the moment you realize that, you'll see the truth." Alex's mind was reeling. What had he gotten himself into? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud roar from the arena. The battle had escalated once again. The small glowing aliens were being cornered by the massive warriors, and Alex could see their desperation. It wasn't just a fight. It was a fight to survive. One by one, the creatures were picked off, their bodies torn apart as they tried to flee. The arena began to pulse with a low hum, a strange energy that Alex hadn't noticed before. It was as if the entire event was being powered by something beyond the physical realm. something that stretched beyond the boundaries of the simulation. But Alex's focus was no longer on the battle. He had to figure out what was happening. This wasn't just an alien game. This was a test, a brutal experiment to determine the strength of species. The galaxy wasn't just watching for fun. They were studying them. Humans. The future of humanity wasn't just about technology or politics. It was about survival in the most primal sense. Why do they keep doing this? Alex muttered to himself. The alien beside him didn't answer. Instead, he just smiled, a grim expression crossing his face. Because, human, he said slowly, they want to see what happens when you break. The more Alex watched, the less he understood, and the more confused and horrified he became. The battles were not only fierce, they were brutal. The soldiers, no matter their size or strength, fought like their very survival depended on it. The smaller species, so outmatched by the larger, more powerful warriors, had no chance. Their screams echoed through the arena, but the alien audience didn't flinch. They cheered for every casualty, celebrating the violence with an enthusiasm that chilled Alex to his core. He couldn't tear his eyes away from the destruction unfolding before him. The creatures that fought, each one so different from the other, were fighting for something they couldn't even fully understand. Alex realized that they weren't just soldiers in an exercise. They were participants in a ruthless and unforgiving test, and they were dying for the entertainment of these cold, emotionless spectators. But his mind couldn't focus on the battles for long. What the alien beside him had said echoed in his thoughts. You're not here just to watch. At first, he hadn't believed it, thinking it was just a cryptic statement designed to confuse him. But now he wasn't so sure. The more he saw, the more he realized that there was something far more sinister going on. The death, the cruelty, it wasn't just for show. Something about it all felt real in a way that he couldn't ignore. What if the war wasn't simulated at all? What if these were actual soldiers from various alien species, forced to fight for their lives in this hellish arena? Alex turned toward the alien who had spoken to him earlier. The creature was still standing nearby, watching with cold, calculating eyes as one of the smaller aliens was crushed by a powerful blast. His expression was calm, but Alex could tell it was full of meaning. This alien knew something more, and Alex needed to find out what. He stood up suddenly, making his way through the rows of seats toward the figure. His heart raced, not from fear, but from the mounting sense of urgency. He had to know the truth. As he approached the alien, he spoke quickly, barely able to hide his growing panic. What is this? What's really going on here? Alex demanded, his voice low, but filled with fear. The alien glanced at him, as if surprised by his directness. You know what's going on, he replied simply. His tone was soft, but firm. But you're not ready for the full truth. Not yet. Alex felt his patience wearing thin. I've seen enough. What are these creatures? Why are they fighting? Why is this happening? The alien's eyes flickered with something like pity. You still don't understand, do you? He sighed deeply. The war you're watching, it's not a game. This is a trial, a test of survival. Every species here, each one, including yours, has been selected to see how far they will go, to see how much they can endure. Every death, every battle. It's a way of determining which species is fit to dominate the galaxy. Alex took a step back, shock written across his face. What do you mean, fit to dominate? Dominate, the alien repeated, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Survival of the fittest. Only the strongest, the most adaptable, will have the right to rule. The rest, well, they will be wiped out. It's the way things are. The way things always have been. Alex struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what he was hearing. His mind flashed to the battles he had witnessed, the blood, the violence, the crushing certainty that these beings were being torn apart by forces far beyond their control. He wanted to deny it, to push the thoughts away, but the reality of the situation was undeniable. But these are living beings. You can't just, Alex stammered, his voice breaking. He didn't know what else to say. What could he say? How could anyone, even a species like humans, understand that life could be so disposable to others? They don't matter to us, the alien said flatly, his voice devoid of emotion. You must understand, humans, your species is new to this galaxy, to the true scope of life beyond your little planet. But out here, the universe operates on a different set of rules. We've tested each other for eons, honed our strength, and weeded out the weak. It's a process that has been happening for millennia. But why? Why would you allow this? The alien didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer to Alex, his eyes narrowing. It's not just about us. It's about the future. We've waited too long for someone to challenge the order. You were chosen for a reason. You're a part of this now, whether you realize it or not. Alex's chest tightened. He had always thought of humanity as small, insignificant even, when compared to the vastness of the galaxy. But to think that humans were being dragged into this game of survival, this cruel test, was something entirely different. Alex suddenly realized that the moment he accepted the invitation, he had been marked. He was part of something bigger, something terrifying. I'm not part of this, Alex said, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. I didn't sign up for this. Oh, but you did, the alien responded, his tone almost condescending. The moment you accepted the invitation, you agreed to be part of it. You are a spectator, yes. But in the eyes of the other species here, you are a witness. And the moment you witness something like this, you can never turn away. Alex turned away from the alien, his mind racing. The words echoed in his head. You are a witness. He felt trapped, like a pawn on a galactic chessboard. But his growing sense of dread was only beginning to sink in. If what the alien said was true, then humans were about to face something far more dangerous than any war they had ever fought on Earth. It wasn't just a matter of survival for this one planet. It was a matter of survival for the species as a whole. He stared at the screen, watching the slaughter unfold in front of him, the alien combatants dying in waves, their struggles all for nothing. Alex's stomach churned. He was witnessing the beginning of something far bigger than he could ever have imagined. The rules of war were different out here, and the stakes were higher than anything humanity had ever experienced. And then, as if the weight of the situation had settled into his bones, it hit him. He was the last human left in this galaxy to see it all. Everyone else was still on Earth, unaware of the horrors unfolding in the stars. He, Alex, was being forced to watch, to witness the destruction that would inevitably come to humanity. He felt the crushing pressure of the moment. The universe didn't care about Earth or its inhabitants. To the alien races, Earth was just another step in their cosmic games of survival. And they were waiting for humanity's turn. And Alex, he was just a spectator, a witness. The next day, the arena pulsed with an energy that Alex could feel deep in his bones. The walls, now humming with a strange, unseen force, seemed to have taken on a life of their own. Alex couldn't focus on the battles anymore. His mind was too busy processing everything he had learned. He couldn't stop thinking about the alien's words. You're a witness. As he sat in his seat, surrounded by thousands of alien spectators, the weight of his new reality pressed down on him. He wasn't just observing a war anymore. He was part of it. The moment he stepped into this place, the moment he accepted the invitation, he had become involved in something far greater than he could have ever imagined. The creatures on the field, once mere entertainment for him, now represented something darker. These were lives, real lives, being torn apart in front of his eyes, not for glory, not for honor, but for a galactic game of survival. He had been told that humans were weak, primitive, not worthy of the galaxy's attention until now. The more he thought about it, the more a sickening realization hit him. Humans were just another pawn in this vast cosmic chess game. The battle on the screen before him was escalating. The creatures, desperate for survival, fought with everything they had. One of the smaller species, a sleek, lizard-like creature with glowing red eyes, was cornered by a group of towering warriors. Despite its agility, the creature was outmatched, unable to outrun the sheer force of its opponents. It leaped with all its strength, attempting to break free, but a laser blast sent it spiraling to the ground in a heap. The crowd roared in approval. Alex's hands clenched into fists. He could feel his heart race, the heat of anger bubbling in his chest. He couldn't watch it anymore. He stood up abruptly, the sound of the crowd's cheer fading as he turned away from the horrific scene unfolding before him. The alien who had spoken to him earlier appeared at his side. Alex didn't even look at him as he spoke. "This is insane," Alex muttered, his voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. "How can you stand there and watch this? How can any of you?" The alien's response was almost mechanical. "It is necessary. For the survival of the galaxy, there must be balance. And for balance, there must be war." "Balance," Alex repeated, his voice rising. "This isn't balance. This is slaughter." The alien didn't respond immediately. Instead, he watched the arena with an emotionless gaze. "You'll understand one day. The galaxy has its rules, its processes. We're not as different as you think." "Different?" Alex snapped. "We're not all monsters. We don't kill for sport." "Are you sure?" The alien's eyes finally met Alex's, his expression cold. "War is not about sport. It's about survival. The creatures you see in the arena are just like your species. They're fighting for their existence. In the galaxy, only the strong survive." Alex felt his pulse quicken. His breath was shallow, and his hands trembled. "But humans aren't even involved in this war. We haven't even started. We're not ready for something like this." "That's exactly why you've been invited," the alien said, his voice strangely calm. "The galaxy is watching, Alex. The moment humanity enters the larger universe, your species will be tested. You're not ready, but you will be. And this war, the simulated war, is the first test." A chill ran down Alex's spine. "Test? Are you telling me this is all just a test for humans?" The alien gave a slight nod. "Yes. The creatures you see in the arena aren't just fighting each other. They're fighting to prove their species' worth. If they lose, they'll be wiped out. The same will happen to humanity if you fail the test." Alex's mind reeled. He had imagined many things, some wild scenarios of alien invasions, of humans fighting for their place in the stars. But never this. He had never imagined that humanity's future could rest on something so horrific, something so barbaric. "Do you understand now?" the alien asked. "The question isn't whether you're ready for war. It's whether your species can survive it. Will you rise to the challenge, or will you be wiped from the face of the galaxy, just like those creatures?" Alex felt his stomach twist. He wanted to deny it, to reject everything the alien was saying. But deep down, he knew the truth. He knew that the moment humanity made contact with other species, everything would change. The rules of the universe would be entirely different. Survival would no longer be about food, shelter, or technology. It would be about the ability to endure, to fight. And that's when Alex realized something more terrifying than the war itself. The creatures in the arena, the ones dying for nothing more than entertainment, were only the beginning. Humanity would soon have to face something far worse than they could ever imagine. The cold indifference of the galaxy. As Alex turned back to the arena, his eyes locked onto the battle. The creatures, now fewer in number, were struggling to hold their ground. The massive warriors had cornered the remaining survivors, and it was clear that the battle was nearly over. One by one, the smaller species fell, their bodies crumpling to the ground. The alien audience cheered, the sound deafening in Alex's ears. He had been wrong to think that the galaxy was full of wonder and discovery. The truth was, the galaxy was full of danger. The moment humans stepped into this unknown world, they would be tested in ways they couldn't even fathom. And whether humanity survived or not depended on their ability to endure the same brutal tests that these creatures had just gone through. Alex felt the weight of the moment settling over him. There was no turning back. The war was coming. Humanity was on the brink of entering the arena. But what would they be like when they did? Would they rise to the challenge, or would they fall like the creatures who had come before them? The realization hit him with full force. It was no longer just about watching the war unfold. It was about surviving it. Alex couldn't escape the nagging weight of the alien's words. The test. He kept replaying them in his mind, over and over, as he sat in the cold, unfeeling spectator stands. The screams, the roars, the relentless violence. It all blurred together, becoming one never-ending nightmare. But it was worse than just an endless fight. It was the undeniable truth that humanity's future was now tied to the same brutal rules as the creatures in the arena. The survival of the human race wasn't guaranteed. It was something to be earned. He couldn't look away from the spectacle. Despite the horror in his heart, his eyes were glued to the screen, unable to resist watching as the last of the small alien creatures fell, their bodies crumpling in the dust. The massive warriors stood tall, victorious. The arena buzzed with the energy of the crowd, the alien spectators clapping and shouting in triumph. But Alex's mind was elsewhere. This wasn't just a war. This wasn't just about testing strength. This was about what came next. If humanity failed the test, if they couldn't survive in this new world, they'd be wiped out, just like the creatures that had fought and died before them. And worse, humanity wouldn't even be remembered. They would vanish into the annals of history as just another casualty of a brutal, uncaring galaxy. Alex had to stop thinking about it. He had to focus. But no matter how hard he tried, the questions wouldn't stop. What if they weren't ready? What if humanity didn't know how to fight at this scale? What if they were simply too weak to survive in the face of such an overwhelming force? A voice beside him broke through the chaos in his mind. It was the same alien who had spoken to him earlier, the one who had revealed the brutal truth about the war. "You're thinking too much, human," the alien said quietly, almost as if speaking to himself. "It won't do you any good." Alex turned sharply, meeting the alien's piercing gaze. "What do you mean it won't do me any good? What if we fail? What if humanity isn't ready for this? What happens then?" The alien smiled faintly, a cold, almost pitying look in his eyes. "If you fail, you die. And the galaxy will move on. It always does." Alex's heart thudded painfully in his chest. The coldness of the alien's words hit him harder than any blow could have. The universe wasn't a place of mercy. It wasn't a place of hope. It was a place of endless cycles, where the weak were discarded and the strong triumphed, no matter the cost. It was survival of the fittest, plain and simple. "But we're not just talking about one battle," Alex said, his voice faltering. "This is a war. This is a test for the future of humanity. You can't just. He couldn't finish. The words wouldn't come. The hopelessness of it all was overwhelming. "I don't know if we can survive this." The alien stepped closer, his eyes narrowing with a look of calm intensity. "The war is coming. And you'll face it, whether you're ready or not. There's no turning back now." Alex took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He had to face the truth. It was either fight or perish. Humanity had no choice but to stand its ground in the face of this unimaginable test. He thought about his family, his friends, the people he loved back on Earth. They had no idea what was coming, what was waiting for them out there in the cold, indifferent galaxy. The alien seemed to sense his thoughts. "Do you think they'll be spared?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Your people, your planet, they'll face the same test. There's no place for weakness here, only strength." The words hit Alex harder than he could have ever expected. There was no safety, no sanctuary on Earth. The galaxy didn't care who lived and who died. The only thing that mattered was whether or not humanity could withstand the test that was coming for them. Alex's mind flashed to the battles he'd seen so far, the bloodshed, the destruction, the hopelessness of the creatures forced to fight. He imagined humanity thrown into that same arena, facing the same challenges. He imagined himself fighting, battling for his survival, for the survival of everyone he knew. What kind of warriors would they be? Would they fight with the same savage intensity as the creatures in the arena? Or would they be like the smaller, weaker species, slaughtered by forces beyond their control? The thought made him sick to his stomach. "What can we do?" Alex whispered, his voice barely audible. He wasn't sure if he was asking the alien or himself. The alien's response was chilling in its simplicity. "You survive, or you perish." Alex stood up abruptly, his legs shaky beneath him. He couldn't sit here, helpless, watching lives being thrown away for entertainment. He couldn't sit by while humanity's future hung in the balance. It was too much. The alien watched him with interest, but didn't try to stop him. "Going to fight, or just observe?" the alien asked quietly. Alex didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked toward the exit of the stadium, his mind spinning. The alien's words echoed in his mind. Survive or perish. That was all that mattered. There was no room for weakness, no room for hesitation. Humanity would have to fight, and he would have to help them prepare for the war that was coming, no matter how impossible it seemed. He had no idea what was waiting for him next, or how he would make a difference. But one thing was clear: humanity's future was on the line. The test was coming, and they wouldn't be given a second chance. The door to the arena slid open, and Alex stepped into the darkness beyond.